Welcome back to Newsarama's coverage of New York Comic Con. I'm Rick Marshall. I'm here with the Transformers team from IDW. They're all over the Transformers universe here, so you know what? I'm just going to go through, let them introduce themselves and the Transformers books that they're working on, so just to get things started.
Hi, I'm MAIRGHREAD Scott. I'm co-writing Transformers Prime Beast Hunters.
Hi, I'm LIVIO Ramondelli. I'm the artist of Dark Cybertron, along with others. I've just finished Monstrosity, and I do Robots in Disguise issues as well.
Andrew Griffith. I'm the regular series artist on Robots in Disguise, and I've also done some issues on Dark Cybertron, the new event series we're doing.
Well, excellent, guys. Transformers itself, a lot of people, there's this stigma with licensed properties, how sometimes, kind of like video game movies, how people write off comic books as just being tie-in, sort of advertising toys or a TV show or things like that. But IDW's done a great job with Transformers, telling compelling stories. What's your take? How has that happened with Transformers? Why is Transformers actually doing well in this licensed property realm?
Well, definitely, I think it's a generational thing in that you're really starting to see a lot of people coming up in comic books and in animation that want to make this television. Real television, real stories, real comic books, and tell compelling stories, whether your main character is, you know, the last of a dying planet, or a giant robot, or, you know, an international super spy. So it's the same level of passion being brought to the project, and that's what gives you just a whole new level of awesomeness in terms of the product.
It's really becoming all ages. And I feel like it's showing in the art too. I mean, maybe you guys can tell us, how do you sort of approach doing Transformers, like creating the art, creating the visual representation of Transformers that also brings it past that sort of licensed property stigma? You make these real characters.
Well, I think part of it too is, like, I've always felt that it can be as good as any other property. It's just like a setting for stories to take place in. It's just a really good opportunity for science fiction stories that can be told really well. And I've heard James Roberts, the writer of More Than Meets the Eye, say the very same thing. He's always felt that way. And if he ever would get his chance, he could tell really compelling, rich stories with a lot of depth and, you know, a lot of interesting themes and stuff. And but I've always approached the art the same way. I mean, I try to draw it like I would like any other serious book, you know, with humans, or, you know, any kind of drama that you see in like a Marvel or DC book, or, you know, that type of tone to it, you know, like, rather than just treating it as like some licensed property where you're following character models that were given to you, you know. Yeah,
and I think too, like, there were characters like meant a lot to us growing up, and you put a certain seriousness to them when you're watching as a kid that now that we get to work on as adults, you put that same seriousness in that you always thought was there. You know, you look at the old cartoons now, they might not have the depth that you thought they did, but we still kind of remember how we felt. And I think even the animation at the time was so detailed and mind-blowing to us. I think now we just try and reflect that in the current stuff we're doing.
Well, I think Transformers is very unique too, because it's not people in giant robot suits. It's actual robots. And humanizing Transformers in a way that can sort of relate to an audience is something that I think is really important and is really like worked in these books. And I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on how you've sort of humanized Transformers in some way.
Look at me.
Expression-wise, I mean, you know, the art-wise, like, they feel
they're just
there.
Like analogs. Is that the right word for like humans? I mean, they can function as like, they can represent anything that like humans can. I mean, they have needs. Instead of food, you have energon. You know, you have different gender roles you can explore. You know, that's debatable, but I mean, you have the wars, you have the politics. There's all sorts of things you can just treat them like people. Now, obviously, they're not people. You have to treat them a little differently, but I mean, as a writing standpoint, you can probably talk about that more. But
well, yeah, I mean, because I've written for them both in television and comic book form, and the thing that I love most about Transformers is that they're sort of the purest expression of character. They don't have a lot of the class or racial or even gender, a lot of the times stigmas or stereotypes or backstory that humans have. And so you build these much more intense, much deeper relationships, because every interaction with someone has to be about two characters, you know, trying to really see each other just for what they are, instead of all of the markers that we as people use in our day-to-day interactions with people.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say visually too. Like, I think like someone like Optimus Prime, who just has a faceplate, some people have trouble relating to that, but I never did. I always felt like he had very sympathetic eyes, you know, and the way you like tilt his head, you can get every bit of emotion you could out of a human face, you know. You just have to, I guess, play with different, you know, angles.
I mean,
but
Batman's everything's covered but a faceplate, so I don't.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
Well, coming at it from doing Transformers Prime and you know, writing on the series and that, how has going to the comics form sort of changed that universe for you?
Oh well, it's been fantastic. One, just because I have a great artist, so we can draw a lot more backgrounds and scenery. So even though the 3rd season of the show was on Earth, the comic book is set on Cybertron, underground. Actually, the entire comic is underground, and it's all with a whole new cast of characters with the Dinobots, and it's great to be able to tell the same level of storytelling that I was doing on Prime, but without the constraints of a CG show. So it's much more action-y, there's a lot more travel, and I think it gives you sort of the best epic moments that you got in Prime, but like all the time.
Well, both of you guys came from doing, you guys were fans well before you started working regularly on the Transformers comics. Jumping in from doing these, picking your favorites, doing art based on those, now actually doing ongoing work on the series. Has that sort of changed? What have you learned about it, Transformers and how they're sort of presented from doing that?
That's an interesting question. Like,
what's the tips for doing Transformers right, I guess, on the art side?
I don't know, just to, like, it helps to have a passion for it. Like you said, we were fans for a long time. I was since they came out in 1984, and I first saw the toys on the shelves and the comics and the cartoons. So I've pretty much been a fan ever since, and I just feel like it's something that you can treat as seriously and like honestly as any other property. If you I mean, it helps to have a passion for it. It helps to care about it, you know. And I'm not sure. What would you say about like advice for?
I don't know about advice per se, but I know like you were saying, like if you have a passion for it, then it feels like a privilege to draw these characters. Like if it was something you read growing up, then now that like you can control it, that really means a lot. And like you hope you inspire like the next generation the way that they inspired you, you know. So tips, I would just say, I guess just follow. Like if you were a fan of that material ahead of time, just remember everything that you liked about it, and you know, put that on the page. You know.
And like, as far as advice, I would say don't limit yourself to that. You know, like pay attention to all sorts of different like literature and stories and storytelling. And
that's true.
Fair enough. And so I'm curious now, just going through favorite Transformers. So
Prime, Soundwave, hands down.
Yeah, my favorite's Optimus Prime, but the next like 10 favorites are all bad guys. So Soundwave.
And your favorite?
They took two of my favorites, but
sorry.
I might go with Starscream because he's been such a featured part of Robots in Disguise, and just getting to draw his little smirk as he wiles his way through the political corridors of Cybertron.
Well, last thing I wanted to ask you too is just tell us a little bit briefly about each of the series that you guys are doing in terms of, not so many people might be familiar with the Transformers outside of what they know from the cartoon, from the movies, from anything like that. The story elements that sort of you guys are bringing in, what you're adding to that universe, to tease people to get into it. Yeah,
well, Beast Hunters is actually, it's funny that you say that, because Mike Johnson and I actually designed Beast Hunters to be a really good entry point for Transformers. The entire series is broken up into 2-issue arcs, so you are never more than 1 issue away from a new, completely self-contained story. It's set underground with the Dinobots and a lot of new cast members, so all you need to know is that Transformers are robots who turn into other things. We like to say that's all you need to know to pick up one of our issues, and we tell everything from, you know, dark, gritty sort of CSI murder mysteries all the way to just completely awesome B-movie smash-em-ups.
Yeah, and I just finished Autocracy and Monstrosity, these 2 series that are sort of prequels, and they explain like why Optimus Prime and Megatron went apart and how the planet got divided. And they're great like jumping on points for new readers. Like you really can just read those and then kind of be your gateway to the other series. So.
Well, about 2 years ago, we launched 2 separate ongoing series. One's called More Than Meets the Eye. One's called Robots in Disguise. And I have the privilege, as you said, of drawing Robots in Disguise, which is the current ongoing series set on Cybertron as they try to rebuild their life there after the planet's been basically like reset and rejuvenated by certain, you know, Transformers mythologies. But so anyway, they're trying to rebuild Cybertron while another group went off in space, and that's the other ongoing. And we're about to have this big event series called Dark Cybertron, which starts to bring the books back together for the first time in about 2 years. So,
excellent. Well, Transformers at IDW. Keep reading. Thank you all for joining me here. This has been great. I like to geek out about the big robots.
Nice.
So
Thanks for having us.
enjoy and keep reading Transformers and keep watching for more from Newsarama at New York Comic Con.